So the reason I'm asking is, so this was technically a home invasion and it got subbed down to these two charges.
Yeah.
So you had stolen a few items from inside the house and you had located the car keys. Why did you set the fire?
I don't know. I don't remember doing it. I'm assuming they said I was wet, soaking wet, and I was freezing cold. It was January of 2014. I don't remember much of it. I know it was cold and snowy and wet out. I don't know why I started the fire. I don't know. It just.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of coming inside wet and cold, you kind of think of grabbing a blanket or, something to wrap up and be warm in, as opposed to, getting lighter fluid and going about setting a fire. And I ask because it's probably, for me, the most disturbing aspect of your crime. The victim in her statement, said she heard a loud bang and she woke up and could smell gasoline. And someone was yelling to her, "Grandma, Grandma." And she didn't know anyone who would be calling her that. And she was afraid that you would harm her physically. She went into and got out of bed. This is 1 a.m. Went to the room next to her bedroom, closed the door, pushed a desk in front of the door, and then proceeded to call 911, didn't get an answer, and then attempted to get out the window. She ended up landing on her back, cutting her leg, crawling over to the bushes, and that's when the police showed up at the end of the driveway as you were backing the car out.
We are about to watch the parole hearing for a man who did all of that to a 90-year-old woman, his neighbor. Let's watch the parole hearing and I'll unpack it at the end.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Robert Mitchell, 294023. He is serving a sentence of 12 and a half years, 10 years of special parole to follow for first and arson 1. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of August 21st, 2024 at 85%. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan, and a review of the offender plan shows he has completed the following programs: Voices and Alternatives to Violence, utilizing a statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. The offender overall score for the RT book within the low range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Mitchell, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Well, I feel that I utilize my time the way I should to change my actions, change my behavior. It's pretty much changed from the person I was to the person I am today. I was in the industries program and I realized how important it is work and having a job and being able to teach other people a skill and give them an opportunity to achieve something else. So I feel that I have a lot more to offer than just being an inmate. I think going home and being able to start my own business and be with my family, and I think that would help a lot more than being in here. Being in here now is not, I don't know, it's not ideal. I don't like being
supposed to be.
I'd love to be where I should be, and I feel that I've really done good time. And no, I think about what happened every day, but I'm trying to be able to make up for it however I can.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that opening statement. We are going to ask you some questions,
Okay.
and then we'll make a decision about your parole. So, Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to start with the questioning, and I'm going to tell you that I'm very surprised about one thing from your opening statement. There was no acknowledgement of the harm to the victim.
Okay.
And I read your sentencing transcript and, various other documents, and you did acknowledge the harm to that
Yes.
woman. And,
Yeah.
but, having taken the Voices program, been incarcerated now since 2014, I think it's important for us to hear a little bit about how you've processed that.
There isn't a day where I don't think about what happened, and I try to put myself with the Voices program into the perspective of the victim, and or my family members being out there, and I feel absolutely terrible that I took somebody's safe and comfortable life and made it so that they felt like a victim and kind of had to be on their toes all the time. And I think about my mom being alone now at home, or my sister. I'm ashamed of what I did. I don't know. I think about it all the time. It's not a good feeling to know that you took somebody's sense of safety and security away from them. So I feel total remorse for what happened. I don't know how to express it without, getting emotional, but it's tough, because you see other people, what they're in here for, and you realize like you're lumped in with them, and that's not the kind of person I am. And I feel terrible.
You made an interesting statement there. That's not the type of person that I am. Well, maybe that's not the person you are today, or you don't think you were back then, but what was going on that precipitated these charges? I mean, burglary in the first degree, arson, they really are at the top of the aggravated felony list.
Yeah. I was completely out of my mind. I was drinking every day. I was not working, just doing nothing, being counterproductive. Just, the drugs and alcohol took over, and it was amazing when I came to and realized that I did that. It wasn't, it was very, very awful. And the programs and stuff I take in here, they give you accountability. You see where the problems are with your life that leads you to that stuff. But I know it was the drinking and the drugs that created that kind of a person. Without that, there's no problem. I've been drug and alcohol free for 10 years. I have, numerous times I've been drug tested, and my life is amazing. Other than being in jail, it's amazing. People respect me, and they treat me like a human. And I feel, I'm not proud to come to jail, but it saved me.
So you have done a number of programs since you've been incarcerated. You did the Voices program. We just talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you finish the Tier 2 program?
Yes, I did. I finished it last week, and I'm actually grateful, because it took a long time to get in there, because at the beginning I had a lot of time, so they didn't put me in there because there was other guys who were closer to parole. And I finally got in there, and I thought, what difference could it make? And I took it, and it actually was rewarding. It gives you a chance to step back and look at yourself and who you were and what behaviors caused what happened. Not just, you're a monster and you're locked up. It's, you made a mistake and this is how you can change it. And I realized a lot of the stuff that I saw in the Tier 2 and the AVP, I had already done on my own. The big thing is staying away from drugs and alcohol. But the processing of the emotions and being clear-headed is the best part. I see a lot in the tier program. It was something that I'm glad a lot of people end up having to take, because I think it could help a lot.
Give me two takeaways from that program that were new to you.
That were new to me. A lot of the stuff that they talk about, where how anger can lead to thoughts, and suppressing your feelings. If you don't get them out and talk about them, you're gonna bottle them up. But then sometimes you act out with drugs and alcohol instead of just getting the thoughts to somebody or to yourself. Even just acknowledging, hey, you got a problem, and go to a meeting or go to church or go to a group, whatever works for you. That's one of the things that you shouldn't be ashamed to have a problem. That's the big one. That it's not a taboo subject. That was the best takeaway, that I wasn't alone.
So when you have this insight now, this new information to help you go forward, and you look back at who you were when these offenses occurred, what do you see?
I see a person who didn't process. Just the alcohol was the solution, but it was also the problem. So it was just a cycle. It was just every day, wake up, drink, and go to bed. And it was counterproductive to what I am. I like to work. I like to help people. I'm the guy that if I see you on the side of the road, I'll help you change your tire. Like that's who I want to be, instead of the person who's just could do something like what I did. It's, it's very, very helpful what I learned.
That is the goal, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that is why the program is later.
Yeah, it gives you some time to grow up and think about it. Like if you come in right away and took it, I don't think I would have got right out of it, because I didn't realize my actions overall. I mean, the immediate reaction to the crime, but not my overall person. And I'm glad I got it when I got it. I'm glad I took it. And it's very valuable. I've learned a lot from it. And my counselor was very knowledgeable, very, very productive programs and meetings.
You also participated in the Alternatives to Violence program. Did
Yeah.
you do the beginner and the advanced?
Just the beginner. I didn't.
Beginner?
I ended up getting a job in the industries program, which I've had for 7.5 years now. And it wasn't conflicting schedule, but I was always busy and working, and I never even had time to participate in other stuff. But then COVID hit, we were locked down quite a bit. So I've some hurdles, but the AVP was very valuable as well. It was a long time ago, so it was.
Why did you take it?
It was recommended to me by a couple people, but it's also mandatory. Everybody had to take it at the time, but I got ahead of the mandatory thing. I took it because it was a weekend long. It was a what the hell, we'll see what happens, what comes out of it. And if I didn't get anything out of it, it was a weekend. And if I did get something out of it, it was worth it. And I got some things out of it. I got a little card that I keep by my nightstand, even 8 years later, that talk about, an AVP, an alternative to violence. Like if you're having an issue, talk it out with somebody, or think it out, or say it out loud, or write it down. There's little solutions to everything. It's not as valuable as a tier program, but I didn't pursue it as much further as I could have, because I had other things going on. But I got I got some out of that. It was a long time ago, so it's
Okay.
hard to
But
remember.
I appreciate hearing that you still have the card, and it sounds
Yep.
like you still recite one or two of the strategies
Absolutely,
for
yes.
managing. You have no disciplinary reports. Have you managed to do that throughout the length of your sentence?
I just the shortest path to get home and get back to my family and go back to being able to go to church and see other people. I figured the easiest way was to stay out of trouble, and staying away from drugs and alcohol kept me out of trouble. So, you have incidences. There's always going to be conflict. There's 1,500 guys here. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like you or doesn't want to be around you, and you're going to have that too. So you just, you're having a bad day. Instead, you stay in your cell, watch TV, and read. I read a lot of books. I mean, I've read hundreds of books just to not be out there in a hooting and hollering and everybody, having a good time or a bad time or whatever. I stuck to myself, and I read a lot. And I got a core group of guys that we would go to church or just talk to them that I work with and sit with at lunch, and we're all like-minded guys who just want to get out of here and do the right thing and go home, make some money, and live out
Okay.
the rest of our lives. Be able to give back, give money to charity or time to charity or veterans or something.
You mentioned a couple of times that you've been working in industries for quite a while now. Did you
Yep.
work all through COVID?
Halfway through COVID, they stopped it, and there was they made a smaller group of guys that were making emergency masks and whatnot and gowns, and then later on we got called in and worked like a second shift. I volunteered in my block to help clean the doors and the cells and the walls and keep everything clean as much as we could to try and stop the spread from people getting COVID, people getting sick. I still do it. I still help volunteer to clean it. Sometimes you got a project going on. People want to keep the block clean. I'm in a block. We have the veterans program with the dogs. So there's 10 dogs running around all the time. So we, guys that want to be out a little bit extra and help out, we help out because they're doing something good. We can do something good for them.
Way to give back. You want to release and go to your mother's. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you said you have some leads on employment.
Yeah. I'm a welder and a fabricator. I do metal work, but I also could, anything automotive, cars, trucks, equipment, boats, planes, anything that's got a motor or tires, I can fix it. So I don't specifically have a guarantee of work, but I know there's several places that are hiring. There's an app on our tablet that has places hiring I could apply to once I get out. I could even go to automotive parts store, deliver parts, anything, any sort of job with that. I have a couple of old employers that I think I'd be able to go and walk right in and get to work.
What are your goals when you're back in the community?
Immediate goals: I'd like to spend some time with my mother and my sister's kids who grew up. So I'd like to hang out with them. I'd really like to start a business and be able to take kids, maybe high school age, college age, tech school age, and give them somewhat of a career and be able to give back, share what I know with them. I don't have any children, so I'd like to be able to pass on what I know.
What do you think you need to do to be successful in the community so that you don't find yourself back in that crazy realm you were circling in?
Yeah, it's crazy. Good word. Jail really lets you know the people who are your friends and who aren't. And the people who are my friends and my family, my mother, my sister. I stay around good people, go to church. Work. I like to work, create stuff, work around the house, work for other people. That's my main goal, to get back and be able to open my own business and give back, be able to have enough money to volunteer, give some time back to the community and, yeah.
How about
I'd like
do you
Go
feel
ahead.
like do you feel like it would be important to do anything with substance abuse or mental health needs?
I
How do you think you'll manage
I
that?
don't know, because I haven't done a lot of that in here. I really didn't focus on that until the tier 2 program, which was a blessing and a curse, because when you start thinking about recovery, you start thinking about why you need recovery, and it kind of brings you back. So you're thinking about it, you know, all hashing all the old war stories of when you were drinking or doing this and it was fun and happy. And then you think about it got you here. So it's kind of the best thing that's worked for me is just stay away to stay away. It's not like it's not available. It's not something that's, you know, in your face all the time, but I've made the choice. It wasn't made for me to stay away from it. I've been presented with opportunities throughout my whole bid, all over the place, and I've avoided them because I know what it leads to.
The
So-
community is a little different than being
Yes, yeah.
incarcerated.
Yes,
You
I
know,
get that.
you could certainly, there aren't the same consequences if you have liquor in the community than if you did, or alcohol or drugs in the facility.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying, say I wouldn't go to a program if I was offered it. It wouldn't be my first step, but I know if there is a problem, there's all sorts of places available to me. I'm not against going to, you know, say a meeting or a men's group or something to check in, or a church group or any of that stuff. I feel I could find that helpful.
You know, I was reading your sentencing transcript and a few things stood out for me. One is that, you know, at the time that you were being sentenced, you did express your remorse and that you were disappointed that the victim wasn't there, so you could tell the victim in person.
Yeah.
But you understood why that wasn't the case. But that you wanted.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Nope, you want to elaborate on that at all?
No, I was disappointed because I wanted to tell her, you know, that she shouldn't be scared. You know, but I didn't get the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think, you know, at the victim's age and, you know, living alone, it's inevitable that she was going to have fear going forward.
of course, and that's the worst part. You know, you can fix property, but you can't fix people.
That's very true. That is very true. I wanted to, you know, the judge really, I thought, did a great job when he talked about sentencing and why he was sentencing you to what he did.
Yeah,
And the reason that he didn't sentence you to the max that he could was that he felt that out of, you know, that you did move the sentencing along quickly, that you did take responsibility, that, you know, so that the victim would not be dragged through it for years.
Yeah.
So I did want to acknowledge that. And the judge also said, you know, which I thought was a great quote, that, you know, that certainly if any of us is judged by our very worst moment, we would all be sentenced to life. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that is a sense of, I hope it was a sense of inspiration for you to move forward and to do the best that you could to make it, because what you do is a way of making amends.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, so do I. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, I don't have any other questions for you. I'll see my other board members. Ms. Turner?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mitchell.
How are you?
Well, thank you. You're presenting well today.
Thank you.
I appreciate your description of clear-headedness. You're, as you have, as my colleague pointed out, you know, full acceptance of responsibility. You've done well this period of incarceration. between your behavior and your programs and your job, and giving back. We're talking about a 5-month difference between your eligibility date and your end of sentence, and you'll go out to 10 years of special parole. So do you have anyone in your support system who is living in recovery?
I have a cousin who's just starting out, so he's going through the same stuff I went through 10 years ago, of the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And he's making the right decisions, I hope. But there's a few people I know of. I haven't kept in contact with them. I do know people in recovery.
Okay. I asked that because it's important to be able to turn to people if you find yourself shaky, faltering, unsure, that will understand where you're coming from and what you're going through to guide you, especially since you don't seem to be making a commitment to any kind of recovery practices.
Yeah.
So, what do you recall about the crime?
A lot of it's blurry. I remember a lot of the after stuff, but I don't remember any of it happening at the time. I was blacked out. I remember being home and then drinking and then bits and pieces.
Blacking out is a real indication of a problem with alcohol.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking is, so this was technically a home invasion and it got subbed down to these 2 charges.
Yeah.
So you had stolen a few items from inside the house and you had located the car keys. Why did you set the fire?
I don't know. I don't remember doing it. I'm assuming it. They said I was wet, soaking wet, and I was freezing cold. It was January of 2014. I don't remember much of it. I know it was cold and snowy and wet out. I don't know why I started the fire. I don't know. It just.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of coming inside wet and cold, you kind of think of grabbing a blanket or, something to wrap up and be warm in, as opposed to, getting lighter fluid and going about setting a fire. And I ask because it's probably, for me, the most disturbing aspect of your crime. The victim in her statement, said she heard a loud bang and she woke up and could smell gasoline. And someone was yelling to her, "Grandma, Grandma." And she didn't know anyone who would be calling her that. And she was afraid that you would harm her physically. She went into and got out of bed. This is 1 a.m. Went to the room next to her bedroom, closed the door, pushed a desk in front of the door, and then proceeded to call 911, didn't get an answer, and then attempted to get out the window. She ended up landing on her back, cutting her leg, crawling over to the bushes, and that's when the police showed up at the end of the driveway as you were backing the car out. She had recently had knee replacement surgery, so it was traumatic in so many different levels for this person. And I just, reading all these details, I just thought to myself, more than 50% of this could have been avoided if you hadn't set the fire. She'd have probably slept through you being in the house. You could have taken the car and been long gone when she woke up in the morning. And it just was very tragic. So I wanted to understand perhaps why you did it. You made a point of when the police caught up to you and, sat you down for an interview, you kind of try to portray yourself as a hero rescuing a neighbor whose house was on fire, which was a curious scenario to paint, considering you backed the car out, but you didn't help her out of the house. So it's just, I don't need to go into it any further, but it just is tragic. You know, it's cost you a decade of your life and, you know, impacted her for the life she had left, as well as her kids, her family, who worried about her, who tried to support her. And she ended up, you know, like making her home into a fortress just to try to feel safe. So I really do encourage you, when you're back in the community and you know, set up yourself for your life, to really work to give back. A lot of harm was done. Much success, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Mr. Pohl?
I appreciate both of your questions. So
Okay. All right, so Mr. Mitchell, we do not have we do not have additional questions for you. We will deliberate about your case and give you our answer in just a few moments.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Right. So Mr. Mitchell, I think I stated his 2 offenses are at the top of the aggravated criminal felony list. Burglary 1 and arson 1, incredibly serious. Sentenced 12.5 years. He's been incarcerated now since 2014. And there is approximately a 5-month difference between his eligibility date and end of sentence. He has taken a number of positive programs to include Voices, recently finished tier 2, the alternative to violence program, beginner, and he's been working in industries for close to 8 years now. He does score low in the risk to recidivate with 3 prior convictions, which are misdemeanor in nature back in 2001, 2002, 2003. I do hear insight from Mr. Mitchell. I do see that through his statements today that he's shown that he appreciates the harm that his offenses have caused. He seems to have some insight into why he had that type of behavior at the time, and ways to I don't know if avoid is the right word, but certainly manage his substance abuse and his mental health needs going forward. He has a plan to live with his mother. He's certainly employable in the community, and his work in industries, I would think, would assist him greatly in securing a job. He has no disciplinary reports in the time that he's been incarcerated. By his own admissions, he states that he has been avoiding trouble and just working on himself. Based on what I've heard today, what we have in front of us, I also, as I quoted the judge in sentencing, at the sentencing, I thought that was a thoughtful way of looking at these offenses and how giving Mr. Mitchell the encouragement to go forward, to live a better life. I would be in favor of granting his discretionary parole today. He has 10 years of special parole to follow that. Ms. Turner?
I'm a grant.
Okay, and Mr.
Agree.
Poole? Okay. Conditions, the victim is deceased, so that's not
No alcohol.
no alcohol. Nothing. Anything else, Mr. Poole? Ms. Turner? Okay. So in the matter of Robert Mitchell, inmate number 294023, there's a motion to grant parole on or after August 21st, 2024. Is that correct? With a stipulation of no alcohol. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Mitchell.
This concludes the hearing for Robert Mitchell. Do you have any questions, Mr. Mitchell?
No, I'm
Okay.
good. Thank you though. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Wish you, you're welcome.
You're all set. You'll receive this in writing, okay?
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me unpack this for you so that you have the details of the crime. Now I get he only had a few months left, so they were gonna parole him anyways. I don't really think I saw what they saw. I mean, his opening statement, there was like no mention of the victim, and trying to identify with why he would have wanted to burn her alive, light the whole house on fire. It was, I don't know, maybe I was cold. I just don't I don't get what they see. I really don't. But let me, there were parts where I thought he was maybe likable, but it's not. That doesn't mean that. Yeah, identified with his. Oh man! Thank you, Richard, for providing the info. 32-year-old man, city man. It's kind of like a Florida man story, right? But it's not. It's Connecticut. Is being held on $1 million bond. 1 million, right? A litany of serious charges after he broke into a 90-year-old woman's home. I don't think they mentioned her age in the hearing. I don't. In the middle of the night and started a fire while she slept. On January 6th at 1 a.m., police were called to a home on Boston Road after 911 call made to dispatch in which a male's voice and banging noises could be heard. So they get a call from the cops and they hear him. According to the report, and when officers arrived, they saw there was a fire inside and Robert J. Was driving the 90-year-old resident's Chevy Tracker sport utility vehicle out of the driveway. Mitchell got out of the car, police say, and told the officers that the house was on fire just as the victim came around the back of the house in a bathrobe, screaming Mitchell had broken into her home and stolen her car. I mean, it's almost funny if it wasn't so scary. And this 90-year-old woman, well, let's keep reading about her. Officers found the kitchen floor and chair were in flames inside 1.5 feet high. And once the fire was extinguished, the report goes on that they could see the door had been broken, a window smashed, and phone ripped from the wall. Firefighters discovered 2 gasoline cans in the garage with fluid leaking and a funnel inserted into one of them, according to accounts. A search revealed 2 pearl necklaces, 2 gold chains in his pocket, which the report says Mitchell claimed were rosary beads. Okay. When questioned, he insisted that he'd been outside his home 0.2 of a mile away enjoying a cigarette when he saw his neighbor's house was on fire. Right. Here's the hero. He entered and tried to put it out with rugs, police indicate. Mitchell told officers he knew a 90-year-old lady lived there alone, and he had called 911 about the fire. Upon finding her car keys inside on a counter, tried to drive it to safety because he is a trained mechanic. Oh my God. He leaves a 90-year-old there, but his story is that he was taking the car because he's a trained mechanic who knew it could blow up in a fire, records say. Inside the victim's car, police located a backpack and spade-type shovel that Mitchell insisted he brought from home to put out the fire. The reports say inside the backpack, detectives found a large meat cleaver and black BB handgun, which looked real. A meat cleaver. Think about this. The victim, who was being treated at Middlesex Hospital, told officers she was asleep earlier when she heard a loud crash and banging, then someone yelling, "Grandma, Grandma," and yelling about a fire. She ran into a bedroom, the report says, with a phone and slid a desk in front of the door to block the intruder's entry. Called 911, but no one answered, which is when she made the decision to go out the window. "I was afraid he was going to kill me," she told police. This is some super grandma to move a desk in front of the door, jump out the window, and then come out in her bathrobe to tell the cops it's him. The report says she got stuck, fell out the window on her back in the snow, and couldn't get up because of her knee replacement surgery. So she used a bush to hoist herself up. She later learned she had cut her leg. Police say the victim planned on running to a neighbor's home for safety when she saw the bad guy backing her car out of the driveway and a police cruiser arriving. Good for them. It sounds how quickly they got there. That's incredible. The report says the victim acknowledged she had a metal gas can with gasoline inside her garage. Upon questioning, Mitchell told officers he had a verbal argument with his mother on January 5th at 11 p.m., packed his backpack and went into the woods near his home, passed out and woke up a few hours later, then tried to get back into his house without his keys. The report says he used a shovel to break a window but couldn't get inside. He breaks the window of his mother's house and walked down the street to the victim's home, broke the front door to enter, took jewelry and the car keys, and started the fire. He admitted knowing the victim was home at the time the police indicate. Isn't this something when you look at the details of the report, then you say, wait a minute. He showed remorse at his hearing. He showed that he understood what he did. This is literally, I don't know why they didn't get him for attempted homicide or something. You know, they let him do the plea deal to first-degree burglary, but this is a home invasion. And worse, you can get him with so many felony charges with enhancements because of her age. He's being held on $1 million bond until his January 28th appearance, and warrants indicated Mitchell was referred to detoxification, a special condition to his arrest by the judge. You have to go to detoxification. So he ended up doing the plea deal. Thank you, Richard, for providing the information. I mean, I just don't get it. To me, it seems like a level of evil. He knew, all the records indicate he knows he's there. He's even taunting her by yelling grandma. He lights the house on fire, which is obviously completely unnecessary unless he wants to kill her. I just don't get it. I don't know what his previous records were because Connecticut only shows the past 10 years and he's been locked up for 12. He served basically his full sentence. I get they had no choice, really. But I don't know why they gave him the kind words. I just didn't get that impression. But I guess he's lucky she didn't die. A 90-year-old woman, this is what she has to deal with. And me with my 95-year-old grandfather, I wouldn't say, yeah, give him 12 years sentence. There are some things that you just shake your head because it's not just, he could have gone in there and just taken the jewelry and left with the car. What's with the malicious stuff? And all these years later, he goes with the excuse that he can't remember anything, but he was yet cognitive enough to make up excuses to the police about, why he was there. I just don't buy it. Anyways, that's my take on it. What's yours? With that, I'll let you go.
Thank you. This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Mary Ripley, inmate number 436238. She's serving a sentence of 2 years and 1 day with 35 months special parole for illegal operation of a motor vehicle under the influence of drug or alcohol, criminal violation of a restraining order, and 2 counts of violation of the protective order. As of state records reflect the parole eligibility of December 23rd, 2023, there is no victim input in the case. There is an offender accountability plan that has been reviewed and shows that she has completed beyond violence in tier 4. Utilizing the women's risk needs assessment, the overall score for recidivism falls within the low range. Ms. Ripley, this is your opportunity to tell the board why you believe you should grant parole. You may begin.
Thank you for letting me have this opportunity. I believe that I should be eligible for parole because I am a different person than when I entered this facility. I believe that I used my time here to really transform myself, and that when I leave here, I will be a real asset to society and my community. I really took the time to think about my alcoholism and the consequences of my actions when I pick up a drink, and how it led me here. And I never want to pick up a drink again. I never want to end up here again. When I first got to York, this is my first time ever being incarcerated. I was on the west side, and I didn't understand why I was in maximum security when I thought I should be in the Maryland Baker program. I spent 10 months there. But as I stayed there, I really think that I'm grateful for my time there, because I joined AA as soon as I could. And being in the same room as those women that are spending so much time in this facility for doing such serious crimes that they committed while under the influence, being in the same room as them impacted me so greatly, because I know that if I continue drinking, that can and will be me. And I don't want to be sitting here ever again, let alone for the rest of my life. And that was such a big impact on me that I'm grateful that I was on that side for 10 months. Unfortunately, that's what it took for me to learn my lesson. I'm glad that I learned my lesson. And now that I've finished the Maryland Baker program, I have had a chance to heal. I had a lot of internal things that needed healing, and being in here gave me the time to sit silently and deal with a lot of those. I reconnected with God, and the program really did a lot for me. I volunteer to clean, and I also co-chair 2 meetings a week. And the sense of community really has reinstated the importance of an AA network. I do have an AA and NA network on the outside, and supportive sober people, which I'm very, very grateful. But being in the Maryland Baker program, it really just reinstated the fact that I feel safer when I'm with people who I can share my experiences with, and who have been through the things I've been through, and remind me of what it's like on the other side. And I have a daughter, she's 13, and my drinking and driving, I'm so ashamed of it. And I want to be nothing but a good role model for her. And I'm taking that very seriously. And I don't ever want her to think it's okay to get behind the wheel. And I feel as though my purpose has changed in life. Like, I want to go out there and use my experience here to help children and other people not to drink and drive. Also, I already contacted the Board of Ed in my daughter's school community, because a group came in and showed us a video about the opioid crisis. And I'm also concerned about that and what our suburban area is doing about that. I'm not aware of how much they're doing compared to urban communities. So I reached out to the Board of Ed for that too. And also, I've suffered a lot of consequences due to my alcoholism. Some are really personal. I've lost a baby due to it. And being here has given me the strength to want to speak out and help other pregnant addicts. And that I think will help me stay sober, and it's giving me a purpose to help other women who are in the same position, so they don't end up where I am now.
Okay, thank you so much for your opening statement. What we're going to do now is the panel members are going to ask you some questions. And when we're done, we're going to discuss your case and deliberate, and we'll let you know our answer when we're done. Okay, Ms. Ripley?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with panel member Turner.
Good afternoon. I really appreciated that you spoke from your heart as you gave your opening remarks, and you laid out clearly for us this journey that you've been on.
Mhm.
So the questions that I have, well, let me start by just explaining, since this is all somewhat new to you. What we're doing today is making a decision about whether it's appropriate for you to finish the 2 years and 1 day that you have to serve for this sentence out in the community under supervision before you begin the 35 months of special parole. So that transition is called discretionary parole. And that's what we make the decision about. And we do that in light of the interests of public safety. That's our duty. You are past your eligibility date and you are end of sentence in November. So we're talking about a very short period of time where we would advantage you with the head start out in the community before you begin the special parole. You were on probation at the time that you committed these new offenses. That was for assault on public safety, criminal violation of a restraining order, and another DUI. So tell me, when you committed or were arrested for the DUI in September of 2020, what if any change did that bring about for you?
Okay, your question is, what change has happened between now and then?
No, I'm trying to highlight the fact that you had a DUI before this.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing changed because you went on to have another DUI. And
Yeah.
I know that you did Stonington in 2021 and Rushford in 2020. So that was all around the time of the DUI, but something about that wasn't successful or sufficient for you because now you're back on a new DUI.
Okay, I understand the question. Yes, I've asked myself questions like that too, like what is different this time? And there are so many things that I feel are different this time. I got really honest with myself by my time in here. I've never had 16 months sober. This has impacted me and my family and my daughter more so than any other thing in my life. I've taken more seriously than I did the rehabs. Like I said, being in prison has impacted my life more than anything else ever. I don't want to be sitting here like these other women who have taken someone's life when they're under the influence. And I see firsthand how
Ripley, I'm gonna bring you back to the question,
okay.
which was what about the prior DUI was an insufficient wake-up call for you to change?
I never got sober. I wasn't taking my sobriety serious enough. And I didn't have enough clean time. I wasn't serious enough about my sobriety, my alcoholism.
Even though you had your daughter at the time and you had the public experience of being arrested, that was not sufficient for you to turn things around.
At that time, it wasn't.
Okay.
I think being in here has made a big difference.
Okay. So, I want to acknowledge that you've had no disciplinary issues during this period of incarceration. You completed the Tier 4 program. Congratulations. That's so important for your future and that of your child.
Mm-hmm.
You also did the DUI program.
Yes.
Do I have that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So you spoke of your engagement with AA and your support network. Have you ever worked the 12 steps?
I have never worked the 12 steps. I did have a sponsor.
Okay. Do you understand what the 12 steps are?
Yes, and now that I've had the 16 months sober, and it's something I definitely want to do, because realize the transformation in me and how important that is. It's an internal, how much it has to change internally. And yeah.
Okay, because the program is, the 12 steps is the foundation of the program.
Mhm.
And, the program is more than people meeting and sharing, but it's actually working on yourself. And the 12 steps is the mechanism to do that. And you can do that with the support of a sponsor, or going to 12-step meetings where step work is undertaken.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be really important.
It is, because it supports you making that choice every day when you wake up to live clean and sober.
Mhm.
So it's a way of committing to your own recovery by work, so I encourage you to undertake that. I want to make sure you understand you were not pulled over by the police as a matter of, registration of your vehicle. You were pulled over because you're erratic driving. You were going slow, then you were hitting curbs. And
Okay, I was not aware of
following
that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry.
It's nothing to apologize for. I just want you to understand the cops observed driving erratic. And that's why they initiated the traffic stop and pulled you over.
Okay.
It wasn't something wrong with your license plate or a taillight that was out, but they followed behind you and saw that you were driving unusually slow, you were slow to start when, leaving a red light, that kind of thing. So you were observed to be driving impaired.
Okay.
Do you know what the state's legal limit for blood alcohol is?
I think it's 0.08.
You're right. Do you know what yours was at the time of the arrest back in January of 2023?
I don't know, but I think it was fairly high.
0.24. I think that's important for you to know in terms of recognizing the level to which you were impaired and the danger that you pose to everybody else out on the road and in the community.
Yeah.
So what we haven't talked about, and what you haven't acknowledged, are the domestic violence related offenses. So a full no contact protective order was issued in January of 2021. Do you remember why that order was issued?
Well, I know me and Thomas, we had a relationship, and I fully regret, and I feel badly for not listening to the judge and for contacting him when I was under the influence. And now that I'm sober, I know better, and I've learned my lesson, and
I'm going to bring you back to the original question, Ms. Ripley.
I'm sorry.
Why was the protective order issued?
I don't remember I don't know exactly why it was first issued. I know I was drinking, and he was upset with me for drinking.
Okay. Well, the judge doesn't order protective orders for situations like that. It involves some assaultive act, some threatening. So there had to be some violence where he was determined to be the person at risk in need of protection. Okay. So I appreciate that you admit and take ownership for violating the judge's order. I was a little surprised to see that you began violating the order just 1 month after admission. So,
I'm so disappointed about that, and that's why I know I can't drink, because I don't make good choices, and I can't even pick up one drink because then I don't stop. And I know how
Well,
serious. Yeah,
Good that
that's
you
how
know that about yourself, that you
I know
don't
that.
stop. And what I want to
Absolutely.
impress upon you, Ms. Ripley, is you can drink all you want and harm yourself, but the problem is when you get behind the wheel of a car.
That's why I have
Okay.
zero tolerance. Yeah.
Okay, all right. But I
Absolutely.
want you to understand, you've identified it as a problem and you refer to yourself as an alcoholic. And I would agree with that. But what we want you to appreciate is the problem is choosing to drive when you're impaired, when
Absolutely.
you've been drinking. Okay, so back to the domestic violence. Is there a reason, having completed Beyond Violence and prepared for today, that you chose to leave out from your opening statement any reference to those crimes and offer anything by way of an apology?
I am very sorry for that too. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous today. But
It's okay.
Beyond Violence had a big impact on me too, and made me realize that I only want healthy relationships going forward. And to see the signs and triggers before it gets to the point where it even has to be brought to anyone's attention that we shouldn't be seeing each other. I believe that I make better choices when I'm sober, and that it would have never escalated if I was sober. I'm very sorry that it got to that point. I've taken a lot of time in here thinking about that, and I do have a lot of remorse for that. I never want to end any relationship in a way like that, ever. I never want to hurt anybody else emotionally or like that at all. And I look forward to a future with only healthy relationships and knowing the signals before it gets to that point.
And you're not going to know those signals unless you're sober.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the relationship won't be healthy if you aren't sober.
Absolutely.
Is there any contact with the victim in this crime?
Absolutely not.
Good for us to hear that. So from the Tier 4 program, what did you learn? You referred to it giving you a chance to heal internal things.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn about what's behind your abuse of alcohol?
I learned that I have more control over my thoughts than I ever thought I did. And one big thing that they taught us was the cycle of your thoughts control your feelings, which control your behaviors and actions, which determine the outcomes. And to me, that whole cycle is huge. It makes me feel safer knowing that I have the ability to change my thoughts and my feelings about situations. I don't feel as though I need to hide behind a substance to face hard things anymore.
You're telling me that your abuse of alcohol was a mechanism to hide from reality, from feelings, from other people, from what?
I believe a mixture of those things. I think I numbed my feelings a lot instead of facing them. And here I've had nothing but time to face my feelings and to face the things I've done in my past and all these realities. And these things don't go away when you drink. And I can only heal by working through them. And I've done that here. And I've started to love myself again. And it's a really, really good feeling.
When you say that,
I'm sorry?
when you say that, can you smile?
Oh, yeah.
You love yourself, right?
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and that's getting me to where the last thing I wanted to go to with you, Ms. Ripley, was your statement about being ashamed. You know, shame is a really tough emotion, and it can be very controlling in our
Yes.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
and destructive at the same time. So, where are you with forgiving yourself?
I'm glad you asked that. I've been working a lot with that. And I would say that I don't feel the shame has turned into more possibly remorse, maybe. I don't think I feel as much shame, more so remorse. And I think that is a different emotion to get through and to cope with. I've also learned coping skills, and I know they work because I've had to do them the past 16 months that I'm in here. And that has helped me tremendously. But dealing with feelings of guilt and shame have taken me down in the past. So it's something that I have been not hiding behind while I'm in here. I'm confronting those feelings. I'm talking about them. And when I was talking about a sense of community in the Marilyn Baker, talking about these problems and these feelings I have really made me feel so much better, because there's other people. I'm not alone. There's other people that feel this way and that have gotten through these things and came out on the other side. And I have people in my life who have had decades sober as well, who have gotten through these things, that have reached out to me during my time here, that I feel really connected with, that are good role models as well.
And that's why we call it recovery, because it's a disease. And, you know, in terms of forgiving yourself, to recognize this isn't some deficit or flaw in yourself, but you've been struggling with the disease that really overcame you.
Exactly, yeah.
I know I said that was my last question, but I'm wondering what you've been able to share about your recovery with your daughter, and how your relationship with her at this very fragile age she's at.
Yeah, so when I first got here, she knew that I had the DUI. When I was on the west side, I didn't have her coming here. I did video visits. And my ex-husband and I, we get along really well. That's who she's with. And we made the decision not to have her come to a prison, you know, it was just too much. And when I joined the Mary Baker program and I started talking more about my feelings, feeling more like myself again, we decided to have her come in for face-to-face visits. And it's just been remarkable ever since. She's like a new person. I'm more honest with her, you know, obviously about where I am and the consequences, and that there are real life consequences when you do these things. And also the fact that when I get out, there's going to be aftercare. This is a lifelong process. This is something mom's going to face every single day of her life. This is not something that just ends when I get home. You know, I share with her everything I read. I like to share with her everything I learn. I like to share with her. I got back in touch with my faith with God, and she joined her classes again on the outside with Catholicism, and I just want to be a good role model. I mean, she's 13 years old, and I want to be someone where her friends feel comfortable asking questions, and I can not scare the crap out of them, but scare them a little bit straight. And it means the world to me to be a positive role model for my daughter.
All right, well, that's a nice note to end on. Thank you for talking with me, Ms. Ripley, and I wish you much success going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Ms. Turner did a fabulous job. He asking Ms. Ripley questions, and Ms. Ripley did a very, very nice job.
Oh, thank you.
Responding with very honest and deep information. I think we got a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, me too. I was going to say, wonderful job. And Ms. Ripley did a very good job of really kind of explaining herself and sharing what she really has been able to gain and manage out of this. Okay. So now we're going.
Did not, just for the record, did get some support letters. One from aunt who's stated she has a long time in recovery, and your ex-husband just in support.
There's going to be her sponsor, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So we've ended the question portion. We're not going to discuss your case and deliberate, and we'll let you know our answer. Okay.
Okay,
We ask
thank
you
you.
we ask you not to interrupt.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the obvious, no DRs, positive programs, impressive change. and clarity that she's achieved with respect to her behavior, her recovery, and her future, and how recovery is the foundation of that future for her and her daughter. It's these are challenging cases. She does score low for her risk to reoffend. However, she was on probation at the time for a variety of offenses. And, I don't think our job gets any more serious than DUIs. And it requires an enormous amount of trust in us, or of us in the offender before us, to see someone who's made those choices in the past, because we do know that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. But I think, as Ms. Ripley said, and in her opening, she has transformed herself with the time that she's been serving. It was a very light sentence of 2 years and 1 day. It did make her parole eligible, and she does have 35 months of special parole. We didn't really get into how her parole officer can be there as a support and someone who wants her to be successful. So hopefully she will go into that relationship with a positive mindset. So I am actually willing to grant early release discretionary parole for what will amount to about 6 months.
I'm in favor of it for all the same reasons.
I am also in favor for all the same reasons. I have no alcohol, no contact with victim TF. Anything else you want to add?
No driving.
Well, we said,
Driving and mental health evaluation treatment.
yeah.
Okay. And
Great.
and domestic violence. I think there's additional work in terms of healthy relationships for her going forward.
Okay, so in the case of Mary Ripley, inmate number 436238, there's a motion to grant discretionary parole on May 17th, 2024, with the following conditions: no alcohol, no motor vehicle without permission from a parole officer, mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary, no contact with victim TF, and behavior management, domestic violence. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Ripley, we hope that you continue working in the positive way that you're working, and you continue your progress. And you've been granted discretionary parole effective today. However, you'll hear from the parole officer in probably the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's, I don't know. I feel good about this hearing. What's there? Okay, so what I like about it is that she hasn't hurt children. She hasn't hurt anyone. What happened really is that, I mean, she kept getting in trouble. The judge kept letting her off easy, and then the judge threw the book at her or said enough's enough. And now hopefully this was a wake-up call that she needed. I don't think you would say more time is necessary. I didn't think that she was underplaying anything, or really, I thought that, I think this is what you would call a good parole hearing. Am I wrong? It's possible. I've been watching, sometimes this is like my 8th parole hearing. It's like 8 hours into it or more. And my mind eventually starts to turn to jello and I become less effective at, but here's, some information, like kind of where, so she's a violent drunk, which, you can see here in 2020 where she assaulted a EMT. But she admits that she didn't blame it on anyone else. Then she has her DUIs where she was given probation. And she just kept violating her probation, violating her protective orders. And then the judge gave her a prison sentence. Interesting that she mentioned she was put in maximum, which is, I don't know if that's a mistake, but can you imagine being like from never you know, like the first probation that she received was she received a 5-year jail sentence in 2020, but it was suspended after 2 days. So she served just 2 days. And then she violated 2 years later, or 3 years later, or 2.5 years later. And then all of a sudden she finds herself in maximum security. I remember when she went and enter her level, so 0.2, I think she was 0.25 or something, 0.24. So they said, okay, 0.24. So I looked it up, and I say 0.20 to 0.24. You're disoriented. You need help to stand or walk. You're probably going to be throwing up, and your blackouts are likely. So that's what she was driving at. So of course, incredibly dangerous. But I mean, this is what you do. You sentence someone to prison, and it's hopefully her wake-up call. Hopefully that is her wake-up call. What's interesting, what you don't hear, maybe it's the parole officer, not her parole officer that does it, but you don't hear anything about like interlock device or a bracelet. Like those are things that you would think that you should absolutely have. Other things I didn't hear was like her, I don't think they got into the whole recovery thing. Like, you know, in Louisiana, it's all about AA and what's your plan? What are you going to do? And you just don't hear that here. That's a car. The car sharing. Oh, you know, when cars blast music, I don't know. We all do it. Anyways, what you do have to be nervous about. I once had music on in the background of a YouTube stream, and I got copyright struck for it. Not on this channel. It was, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It was like on in the background, and it's like, YouTube, really? But I guess, what does the algorithm know? Anyway, something you should always be careful about if you ever do start a YouTube channel. Even music in the background can flag you. I'm for it. I hope we don't see her again, but I'm sure if I took a different look at this, I could probably say, wow, this is flawed or that's flawed. But I think that overall, this is what the system is meant to do in these type of situations. With that, I'll let you go.